Okay, so here we are again with the Juno 2, and in a previous video I showed how you can use an iPad application called Step PolyArp and configure your iPad to talk to your computer through Wi-Fi MIDI and basically have a remote sequencer to trigger MIDI notes and play sequences on a 1986 device, in this case my Roland Juno2. The other issue with the Roland Juno2 is that you'll notice there's no real knobs on it. The big sort of feature in 1986 was this alpha dial, and there was a whole drive towards simplifying the user experience from the intimidating knobs and patch cords and everything else to, you know, hey, we'll give you all the geeky stuff over here and that's it. And we'll give you a bunch of patches. We'll give you a really good set of internals, some digitally controlled oscillators, some great LFOs, a chorus, you know, the stuff that Roland is famous for, really. But we're going to bury it all in this little tiny interface, and you use this great alpha dial over here. That was the theory anyway. And for each parameter you want to modify, you basically go into edit mode and you find the thing you want to modify. You hit value, you change your value, and you hit value or, you know, parameter select again, and you know, you have to do that for 35 different oscillator controls and LFO controls, and it's pretty painful to do sound design on this thing, especially if you don't know what you're doing, which I didn't at the time. So fast forward to 2011, we now have wireless capable devices. We have the iPhone that has multi-touch, we have the iPad that has multi-touch, and so now you have this sort of paradigm where people are writing applications, as you can see, Step PolyArp running on the iPad, and Touch OSC running on the iPhone. What Touch OSC is it's basically an open control interface designer tool that sends OSC signals. So the idea is you open up this editor on your computer and you create these little faders and sliders and you know, these sort of analog looking controls that then you can you know, use multi-touch to manipulate in real time. And so what this app does is it communicates to my computer over UDP on port 9088, and I'm running something on the computer which is similar to Mac's, but it's called Pure Data, and you can see what's going on here is this is Pure Data, and this is a patch that a dude wrote that he shared with the world. Cool dude. And what this does is it takes all the signals coming in through OSC on my iPhone, routed through port 9088, and then basically does all these conversions and mappings to sysex. And so I have this routed to my my USB interface through Pure Data. So the chain goes Touch OSC application with a custom template to send signals to send OSC signals to Pure Data. Pure Data takes those signals, maps them to sysex values, and then Pure Data routes that to my controller, which then goes to my Juno. So what you're seeing here is Step PolyArp on the iPad is using Wi-Fi MIDI to send a sequence, and it's currently playing right now. You just can't hear it because it's filtered out. And then this guy is actually controlling all the parameters within the Juno itself. So if I go into the cutoff frequency, turn that up a little bit. So that's cut off. This is resonance. Again, this cut off. I got access to my high pass filter modes. If you just want kind of mids and up, you got that. If I go over to my oscillator page, this dude made, he basically mapped, you know, you have the pulse oscillator on the left, the saw oscillator, the sub oscillator, you got the sub level, you got noise, and you got the keyboard octave range. So if I change that, you'll hear it. Turn off the oscillators. Basically just get a saw going. Pinch through the different oscillator modes of the saw. Alright, go back to my filter. Now I have real-time access through a wireless device, multi-touch interface, free controller basically. I mean, you pay a little bit for Touch OSC, but what you can make with Touch OSC sort of outweighs the cost. I mean, these are all custom interfaces. And I now have instant real-time access to a synth that wasn't designed to have instant real-time access to these parameters, unless you bought like a PG300, which is like a hard-to-find piece of hardware nowadays. And I am now interacting again in a totally intuitive way with my 1986 synth. Throw on some chorus, some of the famous Roland choruses, pulse width modulation. I go back over to my my saw and put it in pulse width modulation mode. You can kind of hear that. Pretty stinking cool. So highly encourage you, if you have one of these old synths, get Touch OSC for either the iPhone or the iPad. You know, the thing about the wireless MIDI is not all apps support it yet, but this thing isn't even using wireless MIDI, it's just sending signal on pure UDP. So if you Touch OSC is a little bit intimidating. I'm sorry, pure data, but you know, there's a lot of people out there writing things like this patch. I didn't have to write this patch. I just had to figure out how to route in pure data and make sure I had pure data extended. So it's a little geeky, but if you're geeking around with an old synth, you probably are not, you know, shy of sysex or MIDI. So I encourage you to check it out, especially if you have a wireless device. I don't know if Touch OSC runs on Android, but the basic principle is there. So the mind-blowing thing for me is that you can turn a laptop performer into sort of a very dynamic performance experience and still be using 100% analog equipment. So, you know, if you get a CV to MIDI converter, you can even go back even further. So this is some really cool stuff performance-wise. And, you know, I'll probably go in and design an interface for the iPad for this, and you know, make it sort of more how my brain works and how I think about the Roland. So highly encourage you to check it out, enjoy it, and if you have any questions, post comments and I'll do what I can. And I'll also be posting links to this stuff. So cheers, have fun.